Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who action figure review. Today I'm taking a look at the latest character online exclusive, which is the second Doctor and electronic TARDIS from the Abominable Snowmen. So this is the second of characters online exclusives. The first came out last year with the Jungles of Mechanus set, which was very exciting. And here we are back again with another amazing set. We have the second Doctor in his fur coat, a figure that we've known about for many years. We knew it was prototyped, but as far as we were concerned, was very unlikely to see a release, so amazing that we finally have this in hand, and of course, this brand new electronic version of the second Doctor's TARDIS, which the fact that this even exists is something of a marvel itself, which I will go on to explain in a moment. But for now, let's begin by taking a look at the packaging. So the set is packaged in this lovely window box display, very much what we've come to expect from the character option range. It features the new series style guide with the TARDIS on the side and the current iteration of the logo. However, unlike the B&M boxes, this one is slightly elongated and features a printed on gold medal saying character online exclusive. It also includes an additional window on the top so you can see down into the box. And then on the back, we get a look at the figure and the TARDIS inside, as well as a synopsis about the Abominable Snowmen, and also a little bit of background on the story itself. Out of the box, we're treated to the usual diorama display backdrop. This time it's the Himalayas, although you wouldn't be wrong if you mistook it for the valleys in Wales. And what I absolutely love about this is the TARDIS, as you can see, is on a little bit of a slant, and they actually have made the box so that it replicates the slight slope of the hillside. I absolutely love that. I think that's genius, because it's one of those things that they didn't have to do it. They could have just had a perfectly flat surface, but the fact that they've just added that just to add a little bit more character to the box, great for those who display their figures packaged. It just looks really, really great. I really love that. And just like with all the other diorama backdrops, we are treated to a few Easter eggs. The obvious one, of course, is the Yeti looming in the background there. Up in the top corner, we have the Detson Monastery. And if you're very eagle-eyed, you can see just behind the blister where the second Doctor sits is a Raston warrior robot. I'm guessing that's a little Easter egg to the fact that where they shot the 5 Doctors is either the same or a similar location to where they shot the Abominable Snowmen. That, of course, and the fact that the second Doctor wears the same sort of outfit in the 5 Doctors, so that's a fun little Easter egg there. Unfortunately, with this backdrop, however, the plastic bubble that the second Doctor's attached to is actually glued to the back, so if you want to try and peel that off, you are going to run the risk of actually tearing the picture, so if I were you, I'd just leave it in place. Out of the box, the figure and the TARDIS looks fantastic. Really, really lovely set. Like I said, something I didn't expect we'd ever see, especially that TARDIS. But for now, let's begin by taking a look at the second Doctor figure. I'm sure I don't need to really remind you that many years ago, there was a leaked image of this fur coat second Doctor figure, and we were sort of waiting for it to be released, and unfortunately that never happened, and it sort of got to the point where we were like, well, this probably isn't going to happen now, sadly. But the wait has paid off because the figure is here in hand. It looks fantastic. It's also quite different to the prototype pictures. The sculpt seems exactly the same, but the colours here are far closer to what appears on screen in the Abominable Snowmen than what the original prototype looked like. That was more fashioned on his look in the 5 Doctors, so this is very much from his era. So the figure itself basically takes the existing second Doctor body and has replaced the frock coat with this new PVC piece, which is this lovely sculpted fur coat, and it also has new tooling for the arms, so new shoulder pieces, biceps, forearms. So the head sculpt is, as I've said, exactly the same as previous second Doctors. The paint apps are very, very good indeed. You've got a little bit of pink around the lips. There's even some pink around the eyelids, and the blue of the irises and the black of the eyebrows are very crisp and very neat. There's no bleeds or anything like that. And you can see that on his hair, they've even added a slight grey wash to it, just to really draw out the detail of the hair sculpt, which I really like. The shirt and bow tie are very much the same as we've seen on previous second Doctors, that light blue colour with the dark blue, almost black tie with the polka dots. And then, of course, we have the fur coat. First things first, the sculpt is fantastic. You can see all the different creases, you can see the folds. It's been executed very, very well. You can even see that he has his drawstring belt around his waist, all tied up to one side. Unfortunately, with the paint applications here, it does mean that that little detail is kind of lost within the sculpt. But the paint apps in general are very good indeed. I really like what they've done here. So the actual PVC itself is a sort of a light tan brown, which you can see if you take a look in the joints of his arms. And then that has got a darker brown over the top with these lighter browns scattered throughout. And even the darker browns have got a light wash over the top, all of which just helps draw out the sculpt. And it does an absolutely fantastic job. He looks really, really great. And like I said, this is very much styled on the look from the Abominable Snowmen. So we're quite blessed, really, that there's quite a few colour photos on location of Pat Troughton in this costume and the TARDIS as well, which means they've really been able to replicate that incredibly well. And then moving down to the legs, it's just the standard grey trousers with the black checks, and then his little boots have been painted slightly differently from the other figures. They're a light brown with a sort of greyish sole. That's because on location, Pat Troughton's got a pair of like sort of ankle wellies. I'm pretty sure they're these exact colours, so that's another nice little bit of detail there. Then in terms of articulation, it's all of the standard articulation you expect from one of these figures. Articulation at the neck, which can't move too far without forcing it, and you don't really want to rub the paint off the neck or off the shirt. Articulation at the shoulders. He does have bicep articulation, but this is hindered by the chunkiness of the fur coat, particularly on his right arm. His left arm, however, if you move it forward, you can get a little bit of movement there, so that's good. And then, of course, articulation at the elbows and articulation at the wrists. Again, because the sleeves are so long, it's quite tricky to get any purchase on the fingers or the hands to actually twist them round. And, of course, those hands aren't really going to be useful for holding any accessories. This set doesn't come with any accessories, but if you wanted to give him his recorder, for instance, he probably would have a bit of a difficult time holding on to it. And then, of course, he has articulation at the waist and the hips, again, all hindered by the coat because this is quite a thick, hard PVC plastic, so there's not much movement there. And then there's articulation at the thighs, articulation at the knees, again, hindered by the length of the coat, and that's it. So the articulation is a bit static in places, but that's just par for the course due to the nature of the clothes that he's wearing. And to be honest, it's not like the Doctor's going to be doing the splits or cartwheeling around anywhere, so I think that's absolutely fine. He looks fantastic. I'm really, really pleased that we finally have this fur coat second Doctor, because it's one of his iconic looks. You know, he wears it in a couple of stories during his own era in the Abominable Snowmen and, of course, the Ice Warriors, and then he wears something similar again in the Five Doctors. Overall, love it. I'm very, very pleased to finally have this figure in the collection, and fingers crossed, one day we might get a Yeti to go with him. I won't hold my breath, but, you know, if we all wish very hard, it might happen. And of course, we have the brand new electronic TARDIS, which is absolutely amazing. This is a TARDIS that I didn't ever dream that we would see, just because of the nature of the doors. As you can see, there's something very peculiar about this TARDIS. The door sign is on the wrong door. Now, for those of you who are TARDIS experts, you don't need this explaining, but during production of Evil of the Daleks, they rehung the doors of the TARDIS and put them on the wrong way round, which meant that the door sign was on the incorrect side. And this lasted for, I'm pretty sure, all of season 5. It's absolutely bizarre, like my brain can't quite come to grips with it. It's like, no, this is wrong, it's wrong. But hey, that's how it looked in the series, and, you know, it's very distinct. And quite honestly, I didn't expect us to get it because of the amount of new tooling. You know, this requires, as far as I can tell, brand new doors. And that's not all that's changed. You'll also notice that the doors no longer have the door handles. They still have the little lock, but there's no door handles, just like the actual prop. So if we take a look at the new door sign, you can see there's a lot going on here, really. They've added some little hinge type things on the left side. There's even a wood grain effect on the frame around it. And the sticker in the middle is brand new. That's got a lovely weathered effect around the outside. And of course, it features the exact same text that was used on the panel at the time. So this is really lovely indeed. I love that. And honestly, the whole police box just looks great. I love the colour. It's a beautiful blue. And I really, really like the weathering that they've done to this, because it's not grey, it's a sort of whitish grey. And it's sort of chalky, and it really gets into all of the nooks and crannies of the sculpt. So it really brings out the wood grain effect. And you can see like the sort of blobs of Artex on the outside. And then in terms of other details, like I said, you've got the standard Yale lock, which has been painted silver. And I really like the way that they've done the top signs around the roof, the police public call box signs, because these are all heavily faded and they have a big dirty wash over all of them. And again, matching the prop very well indeed, because by this point it was starting to look pretty ropey. And then of course it has the new lamp on the roof that we saw in last year's B&M set with the second Doctor, that War Games TARDIS, and that's being utilised here very well indeed. Again, the wash over the top, and you can see inside that little yellow LED, which is part of the new electronic lights and sounds, which is again very exciting because this is the first electronic classic series TARDIS that we've had in years and years and years. You know, I can't even count it. It might have been something like 2010 or 11. That's absolutely bonkers. And I really didn't expect us to get another one. So if you missed out on the electronic classic TARDISes and you want a classic TARDIS with lights and sounds, I highly recommend getting this one. So let's take a look at the features. So the TARDIS functions in exactly the same way as all of the previous TARDISes. So you have the spring-loaded door, this one which is loose, and then of course to close the doors, this one clicks in like so, and then you have the button down here to push that in like that. And then underneath you have your trigger, on-off switch. So let's give these sounds a whirl, shall we? So the sound quality seems to have been improved since the previous ones. Not that the other ones were bad, but it just sounds like a lot higher quality files, and the speaker sounds much louder and much clearer. Unfortunately, the light feature you can't really see very well on camera, but in hand it looks really, really great. It's fantastic. It's really bizarre. Watching back the footage as it's happening, the LED on the camera almost seems to be like flickering, like really jittery, whereas in real life, in hand, it's a very smooth fade in and out, and it's this very bright orange LED. So it looks really great, and unfortunately, the camera here just isn't doing it any justice. Let me see how it looks if I turn the lights out. So there you've got a much better sense of how bright the light is. Unfortunately, it still looks a little bit jittery, so it must just be something to do with the way that the camera is processing the light filtering through. So overall, this is an absolutely fantastic piece, not only because it's the first classic electronic TARDIS in years, but it's just a version of the TARDIS that I never thought we'd get. And it's so specific to the second Doctor that I'm so pleased that we finally have one in our collections, because quite honestly, I thought this was the one TARDIS we really would never see. So overall, as a set, I absolutely love it. If there was one thing that I would change, maybe I'd dirty up the windows a little bit more. The windows look quite clean compared to the rest of the TARDIS, but that is a very, very minor nitpick for what is an absolutely fantastic set. All we need now is a Jamie, Victoria, and a Yeti. I don't ask for much, do I? But yes, a brilliant set. I highly recommend it. And of course, this is now available on Character's website. Much like with the Jungles of Mechanus set, these are made in limited quantities. So if you want to get one, I highly recommend swooping in fast before they go, because I imagine this will be a very sought after item in the years to come. So once again, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you again soon for some more Doctor Who action figure reviews. Bye-bye.